Now today, Mr. Rahul Gandhi spoke in the Lok Sabha while responding to the President's address. And among other things, he specifically chose to attack the government on its foreign policy or the lack thereof, and how India under the Modi government has dealt with its aggressive neighbours, China and Pakistan. But in doing so, he chose to single out the Modi government's handling of China and Pakistan put together, saying that while China has a clear plan, India has ended up alienating everyone. And that is why we couldn't even get a chief guest on Republic Day. Further, he warned against the spectre of a China-Pakistan united, who India had brought together through its thoughtless actions, and how this is going to spell doom in the future.
What is happening is that India today is completely isolated. We are completely isolated and surrounded. We are surrounded in Sri Lanka, Nepal, Burma, Pakistan, Afghanistan, China, everywhere we are surrounded. And our opponents understand our position. The single biggest, you can ask anybody who understands, the single biggest strategic goal of India's foreign policy has been to keep Pakistan and China separate. This is fundamental for India. And what you have done is you have brought them together. The Chinese have a very clear vision of what they want to do. Do not underestimate the force that is standing in front of you. Do not underestimate the power that stands in front of us.
The BJP, though, retorted with a fact check, especially when it comes to the issue of a united Pakistan-China front. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar also reminded the former Congress president that Shakhs Camp Valley was ceded to Pakistan by Pakistan to China in 1963 during Pandit Nehru's lifetime, and the closest project between the two countries, the CPEC, was actually kick-started in 2013 when the UPA was in government. So is the criticism of the government's foreign policy, calling India an isolated country and accusing the Modi government of bringing Pakistan and China together, a fact-free attack?
So in many ways, any risk of a Chinese involvement was neutralized by Indira Gandhi's outreach to Moscow. So there were always approaches made to ensure that when Pakistan was getting belligerent, that China did not take advantage of it. And of course, when China attacked us, Pakistan did not, at that point, get active against us. So this is a new situation, as he is suggesting. And I think it's very important that these messages be listened to. We are not suggesting that as far as the country is concerned, we're facing war tomorrow. We are saying, however, that the country has been weakened in both its domestic unity and strength and in its external national security.
जो लोग राजीव गांधी फाउंडेशन को पैसा देके चाइना का फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट किया, वही व्यक्ति आज बता रहे चाइना हैज गॉट ए क्लियर विजन, और तिब्बत के समस्या को कौन क्रिएट किया? ये सब ही हैज नो डायरेक्शन लेस स्पीच, कोई सोच नहीं था, कुछ पॉइंट लिख के आए थे, कोई बताया है उनको, ऐसे बोला है भारत एक देश ही नहीं है बोलते हैं, इनको सांस्कृतिक भारत का कुछ परिचय भी नहीं है.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Joining us now, Shazia Almi, National Spokesperson of the BJP, continues with us. Ghanshyam Tiwari, National Spokesman, Samajwadi Party. Qamar Zaman Chaudhary, Leader of the Congress. Colonel DPK Pillai, Defence Analyst, who I will put the first question. Do you think that India today actually stands isolated, Colonel Pillai?
I don't think that contention that India is isolated is true, because India has moved up in the Committee of Nations in a manner which we've never seen before. And it's important to connect where the speech of Honourable Member of Parliament. I think he belongs to the school of thought which says that you destroy your enemies by making them your friends. And that explains why they thought that having friendly relations with China is something in a manner of accommodating them. We must go back to 1959 when Ayub Khan took over Pakistan, and the Chinese aggressions in Tibet had frightened them, and they had actually written to Nehru to carry out a joint defense pact with India, which Nehru had ignored at that time, saying that he doesn't want to antagonize China. And then we've seen the war of 62, which Pakistan, even though we had a dispute with them in Kashmir, had stayed away. And then it's only after 62 that China and Pakistan got together, and they had a Pakistan-China treaty where the Saksham Valley was ceded to them, about 5,000 odd kilometers, which was ceded to them under an agreement, which is territories belong. And then you've seen since then, as per the CIPRI, the largest arms dealer for Pakistan has been, suppliers have been the Chinese, and even the nuclear program has the Chinese footprint in it, along with North Korea. So it has been always traditionally, Pakistan has been allied with the Chinese. In fact, if you remember in 1971, when Henry Kissinger made his trip to Pakistan, he flew in. He's the one who opened the Pakistan is the ones who got Americans closer to the Chinese too, and allowed the Nixon to travel to Beijing, Peking later the next year, 1972. So they've been responsible. They've been as thick as thieves together. So the fact is that it has been true. It's been Pakistan-China nexus has been true since we've been around, like since 59, 60. It has been so.
And plenty of examples.
As far as us being isolated, Indians being isolated.
Absolutely, sir. So, and all of these points, which is why...
Beg your pardon? You said something?
No, absolutely, sir. That's the question I want to take across now to Qamar Zaman Chaudhary. The points that Colonel Pillai is mentioning, two things are quite apparent. One, that the cooperation between China and Pakistan is anything but new. And to say that India is isolated is the farthest thing you can get from the truth. In fact, the irony is that even as Mr. Gandhi was speaking in the Lok Sabha, Qamar Zaman Chaudhary, here is what was said. It came in on PTI. France, which assumed the presidency of the European Union last month, wants to work with India to ensure transparent financing in the Indo-Pacific region. The EU has noted that China is using its financial heft to fund a large number of projects in the region and expects to announce its own transparent and green financing. This is a big problem, said French ambassador, and we want to cooperate with India to counter this. So, the European Union is seeking India's cooperation to counter China. Doesn't sound like isolation.
No, it's a totally, you are taking the entire debate out of context, ma'am. The basic point that out here is what Rahulji said today was the context in which China is surrounding India. It has got strategic interest in Sri Lanka. It has got strategic interest in Pakistan. It has got strategic interest in Nepal, Myanmar, Bhutan. Whatever their policy may be, it might be a depth servicing, depth foreign diplomacy that China has been adopting. You take the example of the
No, sir, that is not the context at all. First of all, even that has gone on for years now. If you're going to start talking about foreign policy and when the String of Pearls project was started by China, then we'll have to go back a decade. That's point number one. Point number two, more specifically, I'm trying to ask you, how exactly is India isolated? Quote unquote, like never before. Because Mr. Gandhi specifically quoted the example of us not being able to get a Republic Day guest. And of course, those same heads of state then participated in a video conference.
You try to understand a simple thing. Nepal, the strongest ally that India ever had, has turned its back on India. You have got
Sir, please do not make generic statements. We cannot make a generic statement and say Nepal has turned its back. Can you answer me a specific question? On what basis are you calling India isolated? When today we have got a place in every grouping.
Want to listen, ma'am. You tell me one thing, that China, after occupying a large part of Ladakh and Arunachal Pradesh and other parts of India, now has joined hands with our staunch enemy, Pakistan. Now,
when did it first join
partnership?
Sir, when did it join hands with Pakistan?
When did you not join after the Afghanistan was overtaken by the Taliban? You see the Chinese interest in Afghanistan.
Which year did Pakistan join hands with China?
Now you go every problem that India is facing in its foreign relation to Nehru
Arey
era.
sir, answer. This is not about a problem. This is about history. When did Pakistan join hands with China?
But we never made them. We had our strategic interest. Whenever there was a problem with China, we had a Russia to support us.
Sir, now you're just saying things. I'm asking you a specific question. Now you just go bandy about things and you say, there was Czechoslovakia, and then there was the Great Wall, and then there was East Berlin. Just by saying these things makes no sense. I'm asking you a specific question. When did China join hands with Pakistan? Which year?
China after 2014 has been in very much of a regional cooperation pact with all those countries which were once a very strategic interest with India.
You are so just by saying things like strategic interest, that doesn't change anything. I think the External Affairs Minister has said it often enough. We've spoken about Aksai Chin, we've spoken about Shakskam, we have spoken of Belt and Road Initiative, and all of this has happened when your party was in government. These are all examples. It's a part of history. There's nothing to be disputed. But the more important thing, and this is what I want to bring in. Now, we had a young teenager, Shazia Ilmi, and I want you to listen to what he said after he has been sent back by China, released by China. This is what he said while speaking to us.
हमको घेर दिया घेरने का बाद हमको पकड़ा पकड़ने के बाद वो लोग हाथ सिर बांध के थोड़ा सा आगे में उतार के ले गया उसका रस्सी को खोल के वो जो किया वो होता है हथकड़ी लगा के हमको डायरेक्ट वो मास्क लगाया आपको बंद करने के लिए तो मास्क लगा के उसका पैदल मार के शायद हम लोग 15 मिनट ऐसे कुछ गया आगे में जा.
All right, Shazia Ilmi, this is real. Here is somebody who's saying I was captured and tortured. He's an Indian citizen and he was tortured by the PLA. And even in his roundabout way, but Mr. Gandhi was referring to this.
Yeah. No. So I think all of India shares the pain and feels for this youngster besides Rahul Gandhi and his sycophants and the one lobby, so to speak. But I think Rahul Gandhi, just like his great-grandfather, has a secret fascination for China. And it's very reminiscent of what Nehru was like, because right from, if you look at UNSC, you mentioned a few of those examples, and whether it's offering China a permanent seat or referring and keeping this fake narrative of Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai, and keeping up with this pretense of the whatever which is going on with China. Rahul Gandhi seems to always play, work against the interest of India and somehow give the impression that the Indian interests are being undermined. So I think there is some serious issue, and no amount of this glib gobbledygook that Shashi Tharoor and his likes can come up with.
Okay.
They cannot camouflage the complete ineptness of what this person says.
Okay, Ghanshyam Tiwari, more faith in China. Prahlad Joshi today said, are you here to advocate for China inside Parliament? Ghanshyam Tiwari.
Well, if I count, it is important whenever you speak with BJP, it is important to set the debate in today, because they never leave the ghost of Nehru, or the ghost of Nehru never leaves them. July 14 to July 16, 2014, September 17 to September 19, 2014, May 14, 2015, July 8, 2015, June 23, 2016, September 4, 2016. I can count 18 dates. When Prime Minister Modi met Xi Jinping across continents, in China, in India, and every leader of BJP clapped. In the last 8 years, the only party who has sent
its delegations every quarter to China is BJP. RSS delegations have gone to China. Just this year, the trade deficit with China will touch around $100 billion. They have given more trade, the 70-year jumla that they use. In 7 years, they have given more trade to China than in 70 years. So the question is why? If India is facing a more dangerous situation today than it faced in 2014 on our own borders, the responsibility lies with the Prime Minister. But if you look at the entire speech or set of speeches from different opposition leaders today, there are two types of themes that emerged. On the opposition side, we said employment, poverty, the global issues, national security issues, especially with respect to China. On the BJP side, they only said Modi ji mahan hai, nothing else. So a government that is smitten by Modi ji mahan hai cannot respond to the realities of today. The
but
reality
sir, you
of today
still
is
haven't explained how that justifies claims that Mr. Modi has driven Pakistan and China into each other's arms.
Well, Mr. Modi visited Pakistan. Mr. Modi met the Chinese premier 18 times, latest in 2019.
But we've seen that engagement for years now.
What did that achieve? It brought more dangers on both sides, and yet on this debate, you cannot have the BJP spokesperson tell you that China is the greatest threat. Can the BJP, have you seen any debate? I question you, Padmaja. Have you seen any debate in last 2 years where any BJP spokesperson has said that China is the greatest threat to India? Can Shazia ji say that in this debate?
Okay.
They would not say that.
Okay, I will ask that to Shazia Almi, but very quickly, Colonel Pillai also wanted to respond to the specific issue of the Arunachali youth. Yes, Colonel Pillai.
No, but why would I be one so idiotic and say that? And do you even know, does Rahul Gandhi even know that the ambassador designate of Pakistan to the US has been called a terror sympathizer?
Okay.
Does Rahul care to read what's happening? So I don't know who said that.
Colonel Pillai.
And do you know how well India is
Colonel Pillai.
No, there have been many instances where, even we've returned back the Chinese who've transgressed into Indian territory, and these are gestures that are done. As far as standing up to China is concerned, the Indian Army has had many major skirmishes. In 1967, if you remember, in Nathula, we stood up to them, and then they really haven't replied to us. And it's not something to do with the party at power. It's the stand that you take. So whenever, even in Sumangalamchu, when Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister and Sundarji was in charge, there was a standoff, and they stood up. Even now, the world looks up to India for having stood up to the Chinese and having not buckled to the pressures that they've actually, they like to slice through your territories, they like to take away. And even the new border policy that has come in, where they've renamed territories of Arunachal Pradesh villages there as their own, and the kind of influence that they're trying to in the Tibetan Buddhism in that region. I went on a Kailash Mansarovar Yatra, and I've seen the kind of infestation they've done to the monasteries there, and they're trying to do the same thing here. So it is important for us to recognize the clear and present danger that China presents to us. You don't have to really clearly name an enemy. All you have to do, your actions should speak louder than your words. Just by designating someone as an enemy, I don't think you're actually solving. So even the best of, we've tried appeasement with them, it's never worked. Even in 1950, we had the General Nagal's father, who was the Strategic Forces commander. His father was killed in China. He was in Tibet. We had an Indian Army battalion located in those 4 outposts there, which we quietly withdrew from there. So we've never benefited from being, we've been traditionally holding on since the McMahon Agreement. We had infantry battalions stationed there. The Marathas were there.
Yes.
And General Brar of 1984, the Operation Blue Star, served in that battalion. So we quietly, appeasing them has not helped them. Neither declaring them as your enemy.
I'm unfortunately completely out of time. That China is a problem is not hidden from anyone, and I think the best response was given at Galwan and subsequently, not by a statement of this is the biggest threat. Just by the way, it's also something that the Army Chief has said over and over, and so has the late CDS. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you very much, all gentlemen, Shazia Almi, for joining me.